Welcome to a deep dive into something that really gets to the heart of financial results. Forget the stock market charts for a moment, maybe even the latest budgeting apps.
Yeah, we're going deeper today. We're looking at the inner game of money.
That's right. Our sources today propose this really powerful idea that underneath all the external strategies, your financial world is, well, fundamentally shaped by your subconscious financial blueprint.
Exactly. Think of this deep dive as your rapid tour of why some people seem to effortlessly build wealth while others, despite their best efforts, constantly struggle.
And how that often comes down to what's going on inside.
It's a shortcut, really, to understanding how your past conditioning might be silently dictating your financial present and your future.
So our mission is to unpack these ideas, pull out the key insights from the material you've shared with us, and explore how you might actually start to, well, redraw that blueprint for yourself.
And the author of our main source, they talk about their own journey, which is fascinating. Someone with loads of potential, loads of energy.
Tried business after business.
Yeah, but just couldn't make it stick. And they saw others succeeding where they failed and just decided, okay, I have to figure out why.
So they started looking at successful people.
Exactly. Diving into the psychology of money. And what they found was that rich people didn't just do things differently. They fundamentally thought differently. It wasn't just the external knowledge. It was the internal wiring.
Okay, let's unpack this core idea then. Your financial blueprint, the inner game. This seems to be the central premise everything else flows from.
It is. The source is pretty clear. If your internal blueprint isn't set for success, all the outer knowledge, the great business plan, the smart investments, they might not make much difference in the long run.
Right. It's like you can have all the right tools.
Exactly. We live in a world of duality, you see. There are these outer laws of money, your business skills, managing cash flow, investment strategies. Those are vital, absolutely essential. But the inner game, your mindset, your beliefs, your emotional relationship with money is equally, if not more, critical.
It's like being a carpenter. You absolutely need a great hammer and saw. Those are your outer tools. But if you're not a skilled carpenter on the inside, if you don't deeply understand how to use those tools masterfully, well, you're not building a masterpiece, are you?
Precisely. The source puts it this way. It's not enough to be in the right place at the right time. You have to be the right person in the right place at the right time.
And being the right person, that means what exactly?
It means your character, your thinking patterns, your core beliefs, your habits, your confidence level, and, crucially, your ability to take action even when you're feeling fearful or uncertain.
And here's the challenging part the source brings up. Most people, maybe without even realizing it, simply lack the internal capacity, that inner programming, to create and hold on to large amounts of money.
You see this playing out in the real world constantly. Look at lottery winners, for example.
Oh, yeah, the classic example.
Yeah. Study after study shows a huge percentage end up right back where they started financially, sometimes even worse off. And it's usually not because they're bad people or stupid.
It's the blueprint.
It's often because their internal conditioning, their blueprint, is only comfortable handling a certain amount of money. Anything more feels alien, maybe even stressful.
Contrast that with someone who built their fortune. If they lose it all, say, through a market crash or a failed venture,
They frequently make it back relatively quickly. The source uses Donald Trump as an example. Whatever you think of him, his financial thermostat seems wired for billions.
right, if his net worth dropped to, say, $1 million, he'd probably feel broke.
And his internal drive, his blueprint, would kick in hard to return him to his programmed level.
And that's the key point. Most people's financial thermostats are set much, much lower. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands, sometimes even below zero, programmed for struggle.
And they have no idea why they keep returning to that same financial temperature. It feels like external forces, but the source argues it's internal.
Which leads us nicely to another core principle. The roots create the fruits. We spend so much energy focused on the fruits, right? The results.
The money in the bank, the income level, the house, the car, the visible stuff.
But those results are simply the outcomes of what's happening beneath the surface. They're created by the seeds and the roots, what's invisible under the ground.
And what you cannot see is often far more powerful than what you can.
Like electricity, you mentioned. Can't see it, but its power is undeniable.
Exactly. The source says if you want to change the fruits, your financial results, you must change the roots. You have to change that inner world, that blueprint.
Trying to change the results directly without addressing the cause It's like trying to pick a different apple off the tree tomorrow without doing anything to the roots today. It just won't work.
It's futile. And the source connects this really well to the idea of the 4 quadrants we exist in: the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual realms. It suggests the physical world, including your financial state, is essentially a printout of what's going on in those other 3, the inner realms.
So like a typo on a computer printout?
Perfect analogy. You could spend all day erasing it on the paper, but it's going to reappear every time you hit print again.
Because the error is in the source file.
Exactly. In the mental, emotional, or spiritual programming, you have to fix it there.
So our money, our wealth, our health, even things like our weight, these are all results, physical printouts.
According to this view, yes, they exist in a world of cause and effect. And a lack of money is never, ever the problem itself.
It's a symptom.
It's the symptom of what's happening deeper down in those roots, in those invisible realms.
Okay, so the big question then is, how does this financial blueprint get set in the first place? Where do these deep roots actually come from?
The source dives deep into the power of conditioning. You weren't born with a financial blueprint, you were taught it. Simple as that.
Taught how to think about money, feel about it, act with it from a young age.
That's right. And unless you consciously interrupt and revise it, that conditioning becomes your automatic, unconscious response. It just runs in the background.
And the pattern is clear. Your subconscious conditioning determines your thinking,
Which leads to your decisions.
which drive your actions.
And those actions create your outcomes. It's a direct line from conditioning to results.
But here's the hopeful part, right? The source lays out 4 key elements for change. Once you understand how the blueprint was formed, you can start to change it.
Yes. Through awareness, understanding, disassociation.
Disassociation, meaning seeing that this conditioning isn't really you, it's just something you learned.
Exactly. It's not your essential nature, it's programming. And then the 4th step is declaration, actively stating and embodying a new way of being.
Okay, let's break down the main ways this conditioning happens. First up, verbal programming. This is literally what you heard about money growing up.
Right. Phrases like, money is the root of all evil, or rich people are greedy, or maybe we can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees, save for a rainy day.
Things you hear over and over again, probably with some emotional weight behind them.
Absolutely. Especially if heard during times of stress or scarcity. Those statements sink in deep and become subconscious rules about money. They become your money files.
So the change process starts with awareness, just listing those phrases you remember hearing.
Then understanding, seeing how those specific statements might have shaped your current beliefs and behaviors. Are you afraid to spend? Do you feel guilty having money?
And then disassociation, realizing, okay, that's just a recording in my head. It's not the absolute truth, and it's not me.
Right. You have the power to choose different thoughts now, which leads to the declaration.
Where you actively state a new intention.
Yeah, the source suggests something really tangible, like putting your hand over your heart and saying, what I heard about money isn't necessarily true. I choose to adopt new ways of thinking that support my happiness and success.
And then touching your head and saying, I have a millionaire mind. It's like actively installing a new program.
It is. It's about embodiment. Okay, the second influence is modeling, what you saw growing up.
How did the adults around you actually handle money? Were they savers or spenders, investors? Did they argue about it?
We all know the sayings, monkey see, monkey do, or the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. When it comes to money, this is incredibly powerful. We unconsciously soak up the habits and attitudes we observe.
There's that funny story the source shares about the ham.
Oh, right. The woman who always cut the ends off the ham before cooking it.
Her daughter asks why. She says, Mom always did it. She asks Mom, Grandma always did it.
Finally, they ask Grandma, who just says, my pan was too small.
Perfect. It shows how we inherit behaviors without even questioning the original reason.
And the author shares his own experience, right? Watching his father's boom-bust cycle in the building business.
Making a lot of money, then losing it all, over and over.
And without realizing it, he started mirroring that exact pattern in his own ventures until he had that aha moment and saw he was just living out the model he'd witnessed.
Now, the source brings up a really interesting twist on modeling. Rebellion.
Yes. Sometimes, out of anger or resentment towards Karen's financial struggles or attitudes, people consciously decide to be the exact opposite.
Which can sometimes lead to getting rich, paradoxically.
It can. But the source warns, if the root motivation is anger like, I'll show them, Then money gets tangled up with that anger.
And deep down, nobody really wants to live in anger forever.
Exactly. So subconsciously, getting rid of the money might feel like a way to get rid of the anger that drove you to get it. It can lead to self-sabotage.
Making bad decisions, overspending, finding ways to lose the wealth, leaving you broke and still angry.
Because you didn't address the underlying emotion. The key insight here is the need to unlink your drive for money from negative stuff like anger, fear, or needing to prove yourself.
And instead connect it to positive motivations like purpose, contribution, joy.
Precisely. Okay, the third way the blueprint gets formed is through specific incidents, particularly emotional experiences you had around money in childhood.
These don't have to be huge traumas, right? Just moments with a strong emotional charge.
Exactly. The author talks about his wife's experience as a kid, hearing her mom say, "Dad's got all the money," and then her dad gives her a quarter for ice cream.
So for her, money became instantly linked to immediate pleasure. Ice cream.
Right. Whereas for the author, who saw his dad's financial stress, money became linked to freedom, the escape from that worry.
So you had one partner programmed for immediate pleasure, the other for future freedom, based on these early incidents.
And you can imagine the conflicts that caused in their marriage around money until they understood where these different blueprints came from.
And then they could consciously create a new shared one together. It really highlights how crucial this is in relationships.
Absolutely. Understanding your own money story and your partner's.
Yeah.
And the steps for change for these incidents follow the same pattern.
Recall the incident, understand its impact, disassociate, see it as learned, not you, and declare a new future.
Like, hand on heart, I release my non-supportive money experiences from the past and create a new and rich future. Said, I have a millionaire mind.
So by looking at what you heard, what you saw, and what you experienced emotionally, you can start to piece together what your current money blueprint is actually programmed for.
Is it success? Mediocrity? Struggle? Ease? Certain income level? Or maybe no limit at all?
And remembering that it apps like that thermostat, always trying to pull you back to that set temperature.
Whether that temperature feels good or not.
All right, so once you've got some awareness of the blueprint, the next big step is adopting a new one, installing the mindset of wealth. The source calls these the wealth files.
Right. It's the core idea that rich people think fundamentally differently from poor or middle-class people. And by understanding these differences, you can consciously choose to adopt the thoughts and actions that support wealth creation.
And this is where those declarations and taking consistent action become really practical tools.
Yeah, you're actively turning those old not doing habits, the avoidance, the procrastination, the fear, into doing habits that build your new reality.
Okay, let's dive into some of the key differences highlighted in the source. One of the most foundational wealth files. Rich people believe I create my life. Poor people believe life happens to me.
It's huge. It's fundamental. It's about taking ownership versus playing the victim.
The source points out that people stuck in a poverty mindset often default to blame, justification, and complaining.
And it calls these stress reducers for failure. Think about it. If you weren't failing, you wouldn't need to blame someone else or justify why things aren't working.
It's a tough pill to swallow, but the insight is powerful. Your thoughts and words aren't just noise. You are literally creating your reality, consciously or unconsciously.
If you're constantly saying life happens to me or it's not my fault, you're giving away your power.
It's not about blaming yourself for past circumstances. It's about recognizing your agency now. If you create your reality, you have the power to change it. That's the empowering part.
And related to this, the source challenges a common narrative about money itself. It says money is extremely important, where it works paying bills, funding projects, providing opportunities.
And completely unimportant where it doesn't like trying to buy love or true happiness.
And it pushes back against the stereotype of the greedy rich person. Savorse suggests, based on the author's experience, that the vast majority of wealthy people, especially self-made ones, are actually quite honest.
That's why they're trusted with capital and can build enterprises. Honesty builds trust. Trust attracts resources.
Exactly. Money, honestly earned and managed, can be an incredible force for good. Okay, another key wealth file. Rich people play the money game to win. Poor people play the money game not to lose.
The intention behind it all. For many, the goal is just security, survival, maybe getting comfortable.
But for rich people, the explicit goal is abundance. Significant wealth, becoming a millionaire and more. It's playing offense versus playing defense.
The source has that little story about ordering food.
Right. People playing not to lose Go to a nice restaurant, but scan the menu for the cheapest thing, maybe the chicken, because they're optimizing for minimizing cost.
Instead of maximizing the experience or the pleasure, they're playing not to lose money, not playing to win enjoyment.
So the action step here is to set audacious abundance goals. Really aim to win the money game, not just survive it.
And maybe, just maybe, next time you're out, order something at market price without checking the cost first, just as an exercise in playing for abundance.
It's a small act, but it reinforces a different mindset.
Oh.
Okay, moving on, a really critical distinction. Wealth file, #3. Rich people are committed to being rich, or people merely want to be rich.
Wanting sounds good, but the source basically says it's useless on its own.
Yeah, wanting often just leads to more wanting. The difference is commitment. Many people say they want to be rich, but subconsciously they have all these negative associations.
Like thinking rich people are greedy, or money corrupts, or it will cost them their relationships.
Exactly. These conflicting beliefs sabotage true commitment. The source says the number one reason people don't get what they want is they don't truly know what they want because of this internal conflict.
Rich people, on the other hand, are crystal clear. They desire wealth, and they commit, unwavering, to doing whatever it takes legally, morally, ethically to achieve it.
It describes 3 levels. I want, which is passive, like wishing.
Yeah.
I choose, taking responsibility, making decisions, and I commit, total dedication. That commitment level is where wealth happens.
Let's jump ahead and link wealth files, #6 and #7, admiration and association. Rich people admire other rich and successful people. Poor people often resent them.
This is so important. If you resent wealthy people, how can you ever become one? You're basically telling the universe you don't want what they have.
You're creating an energetic barrier. You can't learn from someone you secretly despise or put down. The source is blunt. Resentment keeps you broke.
The antidote. Plus what you want. See someone with a beautiful home, a successful business, financial freedom. Genuinely bless them, be happy for them, admire their success.
The author talks about meeting incredibly nice, generous, rich people and how it just shattered his old stereotypes.
Right. He found the richest people he knew were often the nicest and most charitable. And then there's association.
Rich people actively associate with positive, successful people. Poor people tend to hang out with negative or unsuccessful people.
It's the old birds of a feather flock together principle. The source even throws out a stat that people's incomes tend to be within 20% of the average income of their closest friends.
Wow. So choosing who you spend time with is literally a financial decision.
Whether you realize it or not. If you want to soar with eagles, you can't keep paddling with ducks, as they say. It's not just what you know, it's who you know and who influences your thinking.
Practical steps here could include reading biographies of successful people. That's a form of association.
Or visiting upscale places, even just for coffee, to get comfortable in that environment and see wealthy people are just people.
And consciously evaluating your current circle. If someone's consistently negative or dragging you down,
you might need to lovingly create some distance, or at least reframe their negativity internally so it doesn't pull you in, and maybe cut back on the negative news and reality TV that bombards you with unsupportive messages.
Good point. Okay, another crucial one. Wealth file, #8. Rich people are excellent receivers. Poor people are poor receivers.
Ooh, this one hits home for a lot of people. It often ties back to those feelings of unworthiness we talked about.
Maybe you were told you weren't good enough or punished for mistakes, so now you feel like you don't deserve good things, including money.
But the source makes a really interesting point.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to feel worthy to be rich. Plenty of wealthy people are driven by a need to prove their worth through money.
But that doesn't necessarily bring happiness.
Exactly. It's far better to create wealth for positive reasons. But the point is, the universe doesn't check your worthiness certificate before delivering abundance. You just have to be willing to receive it.
Giving and receiving are like two sides of the same coin, right? You can't have one without the other.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You can't give if there's no one willing or able to receive. Poor receivers subconsciously push abundance away. And the source suggests money just magnifies who you already are.
So if you're a poor receiver now, more money might just make you a bigger, more uncomfortable poor receiver.
That's the idea. So you have to actively practice flexing your receiving muscle. This is a key reason the money management system the source recommends includes a play account.
Setting aside 10% of your income specifically to blow on things that make you feel rich, pampered, deserving.
Yes, it's training yourself to receive pleasure and abundance without guilt, to normalize it.
Other ways to practice. The source mentions simply accepting compliments with a genuine thank you instead of deflecting or minimizing.
Or celebrating any money that comes your way, even finding a coin. Shouting, "I'm a money magnet, thank you," reinforces that receiving energy. And consciously pampering yourself. You have to actively expand your capacity to receive.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Wealth file, #11. Rich people choose to get paid based on results. Poor people choose to get paid based on time.
This cuts against the grain of the traditional steady paycheck advice. While security isn't bad, trading only your time for money automatically puts a ceiling on your income.
There are only 24 hours in a day.
Right, so wealth rule #1, according to the source, is never have a ceiling on your income.
To build significant wealth, you need to be compensated based on the value you deliver, the results you produce, not just the hours you clock in.
This is true unless you could significantly leverage your time, like managing a huge team or creating systems.
The fear around results-based pay, that's often just that old conditioning talking, right? Maybe parents who prioritize security above everything.
Very often. The author quotes his own father, saying, "You'll never get rich working on straight salary for someone else. If you're going to get a job, make sure you get paid on percentage. Otherwise, go work for yourself."
Strong advice. So, if you don't have your own business idea ready to go,
Commission sales is one option. Network marketing is another perception. The source brings up low startup cost, built-in leverage, and income tied directly to your results and building a team, not just your personal hours.
so the action here is to look for ways to tie your income to performance, maybe negotiating a bonus structure with your employer.
Or if you're feeling capped, seriously considering starting your own venture, even part-time initially, where your potential isn't limited by the clock.
Okay, next up, wealth file, #13. Rich people focus on their net worth. Poor people focus on their working income.
This is a huge distinction. You can work incredibly hard, earn a six-figure salary, and still end up broke if you're not building net worth.
Because working hard alone doesn't make you rich. Rich people make their money work hard for them.
Often harder than they work for their money. Financial freedom, boiled down, is when your passive income exceeds your expenses. You don't have to work anymore if you don't want to.
And passive income comes from?
Two main sources. Money working for you, think investments like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate that appreciates.
And business working for you.
Right. Businesses are systems that generate income without your constant day-to-day involvement. Things like rental properties, book royalties, software licenses, maybe a well-systematized business with a manager, or network marketing income.
Most people are conditioned primarily for active working income, so this requires a conscious shift in focus.
Absolutely. Towards creating those passive streams. And it ties into thinking long-term, like rich people tend to do, versus the short-term focus on immediate gratification common among poorer mindsets.
You also mentioned Parkinson's law, expenses rising to meet income.
Exactly. Just earning more won't make you wealthy if your spending keeps pace. You need a strategy for accumulation. The source frames building net worth as a four-part equation, like a bus needing all four wheels.
Income, both active and passive.
Savings.
Investments.
And simplification, actively managing and reducing your cost of living so more money is available for saving and investing. Most people just focus on the income wheel.
The source shares some nice examples, like the author's in-laws, not high earners, but disciplined savers, lived modestly, invested wisely, retired comfortably.
Or his own parents buying land years ago that appreciated significantly. It wasn't just about the paycheck, it was about assets growing over time. Strategic choices.
So the action step is to broaden your focus to all four factors. Start tracking your net worth, maybe quarterly, to see the real picture.
Get the big picture, not just the income snapshot. And consider getting guidance from a successful financial planner who understands wealth building, not just selling products.
Which leads perfectly into wealth file, #14. Rich people manage their money well. Poor people mismanage their money well, or maybe just don't manage it at all.
This is probably the most practical, hands-on file. Managing money is a habit, and the source insists the habit is way more important than the amount you have right now.
The idea being you have to show you can handle what you've got before the universe sends you more.
That's the principle. You must learn to manage a small amount effectively before you can handle a large amount.
Even if it's just a few dollars a month.
The source tells a story of a student who started managing just $1 a month using the system, and it changed everything for her. The money miracles, as the author calls them, start happening when you demonstrate good stewardship.
And the key to managing effectively, according to this source, is balance. It's not just about austere saving.
No, Absolutely not. You need to save and invest for the future. The recommendation is 10% into a dedicated financial freedom account, used only for investments and passive income generation.
But you also need that 10% play account we mentioned earlier.
Yes. To spend guilt-free every month on things that make you feel abundant and strengthen that receiving muscle, it prevents deprivation and makes managing money feel good.
And they suggest other jars or accounts too, right? Long-term savings for spending, education, necessities, even giving.
It's a system to consciously allocate your money, giving every dollar a job, instead of just letting it slip through your fingers.
Because it's not just what you earn, it's what you do with it. High earners can still be broke if they don't manage.
Totally. The source acknowledges managing might feel unnatural at first, like training for a marathon when you hate running. But practice builds the muscle, and eventually it can become easy, even enjoyable.
The bottom line is, either you control money or it controls you. And to control it, you have to manage it.
Simple as that.
Yeah. Now, before the final wealth file, there's a really critical principle woven throughout the source material: the importance of acting in spite of fear and discomfort.
Yes, this is huge. Action is framed as the essential bridge. It connects your inner world, your thoughts, feelings, and tensions, with your outer world, your results.
Yeah.
Without action, nothing changes externally.
And the big insight is you don't need to wait until you're fearless to act.
Not at all. Fear, doubt, worry, uncertainty, inconvenience, discomfort, they're all normal parts of stretching and growing. The key is to practice acting, despite feeling those things.
Your comfortable zone is just where you are now. To get to a new level financially or otherwise, you must step outside it.
The source is pretty direct. Being comfortable is highly overrated. You only grow when you're uncomfortable. That feeling of discomfort is actually a sign you're expanding.
So when you feel uncomfortable taking a new action, you should almost pat yourself on the back and say, okay, I must be growing.
Exactly. And your comfort zone directly equals your wealth zone, CZ, WZ. Expand your comfort zone, and your wealth zone expands too. Prioritize comfort above all else, and you actually contract, letting fear dictate your limits.
Our minds are so good at creating worst-case scenarios, aren't they? Like little soap opera writers in our heads.
Constantly generating drama and fear about things that usually never happen. You have to learn to acknowledge the fear, thank your mind for trying to protect you, and then take the action anyway.
So practical actions here involve listing your money fears and really challenging them. What's the worst that could happen? Could you handle it? Could you recover?
And then intentionally practicing stepping out of your comfort zone. Small steps. Talk to a stranger. Ask her that raise. Raise your prices. Wake up an hour earlier. Sign up for that challenging course.
And employing power thinking. Consciously choosing to focus only on thoughts that support your happiness and success, rather than letting the fear-mongering thoughts run wild.
It's about training your mind, just like training your body.
Okay, and finally, wealth file, #17. Rich people constantly learn and grow. Poor people think they already know.
Ooh, the source calls the phrase, "I know that," one of the 3 most dangerous phrases in the English language.
Why? Because if you know it, you close yourself off to learning more or implementing it differently.
Exactly. You only truly know something if you are living it, if you're getting the results. If you're not yet rich and happy, the source argues, then you still have things to learn about money and happiness.
People stuck in a poverty mindset often try to prove they're right about why they're not successful, blaming external factors.
Bad luck, the government, their boss, the economy, anything but their own mindset or lack of knowledge. But if what you've been doing isn't working, continuing to do it and expecting different results is...
well, insanity, as they say.
Pretty much. Success isn't some mystical gift. It's a learnable skill. Anyone can learn to be successful, regardless of their starting point.
Every master was once a disaster. I like that. Nobody's born a financial genius.
And maybe the deepest insight here is that getting rich isn't primarily about the money itself. It's about the person you have to become in the process.
Developing the character, the mindset, the discipline, the resilience.
Exactly. The fastest way to get rich and stay rich is to work on developing yourself. Because you take yourself, your habits, your beliefs, your fears with you wherever you go. You need to grow yourself into a successful person internally first.
If you're a level 5 person, you get level 5 results. If you want level 10 results.
You need to grow into a level 10 person. If you somehow get level 10 money without doing the inner work, chances are you won't keep it.
This connects to that BE, DO, have E sequence.
Right. The wealthy operate as BE, develop the successful mindset character. DO, take the appropriate actions. Have VE, get the wealthy results.
Whereas poor and middle class often think, have EDB, if I had more money, then I'd do the things rich people do, and then I'd be happy, successful.
But it works the other way around. You have to be first. And part of being successful is committing to continuous learning.
Rich people tend to be experts, or at least highly knowledgeable, in their field or about money in general.
They understand their craft, they understand investing, they understand wealth principles. Your results, your paycheck, are often an unbiased measure of how good you are. To get paid the best, you generally need to be the best.
And that requires constant learning and growth.
And crucially, learning from the right people. Rich people take advice from people richer or more successful than them. Poor people often take advice from their equally broke lens.
If you learn about money from broke people,
I can only teach you how to be broke. You need to seek out mentors, coaches, books, seminars from people who have actually achieved the results you desire.
and the source really hammers home that reading or listening isn't enough. You have to do the action exercises.
That's where the permanent change happens. Practice is key.
So actions here involve committing to ongoing education books, seminars, financial news, shifting your focus from just active income to building passive income.
Researching specific strategies, talking to experts, taking action, and remembering that line about real estate. Don't wait to buy real estate and wait. It applies to many forms of investment.
So wrapping this up, we've taken a pretty deep dive into this powerful idea that your inner world, your subconscious financial blueprint, and your overall mindset is really the primary engine driving your financial results.
Yeah, it's not just secondary, it's arguably primary. We've seen how this blueprint gets deeply shaped by your early conditioning, what you heard, what you saw modeled, the emotional experiences you had around money.
And we've explored some of those fundamental ways of thinking and acting, the wealth files that seem to distinguish those who build wealth. Things like taking ownership, playing to win, commitment.
Admiration, association, being a good receiver, getting paid on results, focusing on net worth, managing money well, acting despite fear, and that commitment to constant learning.
The consistent thread through all of it seems to be, you've got to go to the roots to change the fruits. Your financial outcome is largely a printout of your internal world.
It really boils down to the person you become on the inside. That's the ultimate leverage point.
So maybe the most powerful, provocative thought to leave you with today is this. If your current financial reality isn't what you truly desire, if you feel stuck or keep hitting some kind of invisible ceiling,
Perhaps the most effective place to start changing your financial future isn't out there somewhere, but right inside you, by starting to consciously work on that invisible inner world.
what one small action, based on everything we've discussed, could you take today, maybe even right now, to begin consciously shifting your own financial blueprint?
Keep exploring these principles, try out some of the actions, stay curious, and see what new results you begin to create in your own life.